Great to meet you. Oh. Hey, good morning, Roger.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really great, thank you, mate. How's things?
No complaints. A little cold over here, but all good. How about your way?
Oh, it's always cold over this way. It's constantly cold, mate. But no,
Where
can't, like you
exactly are
said,
you?
can't complain. So I'm Manchester in
Okay.
England. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I just want to say first and foremost, thank you very much for giving up some of your time. Obviously, I really appreciate this, and I should be releasing the podcast on Friday if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Can you remind me? I'm sorry, I've just been kind of hectic around lately. The kids have been a
No.
little. What topics did you want to touch on?
Yeah, so I've just got just a slight running order here, Roger. So I've just got a little bit on the Premier League, and then just USA men's national team, and then MLS really.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can get started whenever you're ready.
Sure.
Oh, brilliant. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the self-proclaimed world's greatest podcast. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And I'm here with a very special guest, CBS's own Roger Gonzalez. Thank you very much for your time today, Roger, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. No problem.
Yeah, so we're in esteemed company, Cookie Pod listeners, and we're going to delve into a bit of Premier League action, a bit of USA men's nationals team, and then a little bit of MLS, having the MLS Cup just finished last weekend. So, Roger, I'll start with the most pressing news. In my opinion, one of the best Premier League strikers of all time, Sergio Aguero, unfortunately, had to announce his retirement today due to heart problems. Do you think Aguero is the best Premier League striker of your lifetime?
I think you certainly make a case for it, right? With the consistency that he brought every single season. I think there may have been players in the past that maybe blew me away more. Thierry Henry comes to mind, but obviously what Aguero was able to do coming to the league. And, someone who, as a 17-year-old in Argentina, played for the club that my wife's family supports down there, Independiente. From the first moment he was on the field, you could tell that there was something special there. And, whether it was that, Atletico Madrid or when he went to City, just a consistent player who, despite not having a whole lot of size, could produce, was quick, was clinical, and helped elevate a team like Manchester City that obviously didn't have the biggest history before he arrived, but now has helped turn them into a global brand and one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you just said, you've named Thierry Henry. I'm 26 years old, so Alan Shearer was a bit before my time, but I would say definitely in my era, Sergio Aguero and Thierry Henry 100%. And he's only been at Barcelona for 6 months and he's 33 years old, which is kind of young for a footballer. Do you believe that Messi going to PSG and Aguero obviously having his time at Barcelona cut short, do you think that impacts the Argentinian national team immensely now?
Probably not quite. I mean, I think Aguero's role with the national team has been reduced significantly for years now. Under Lionel Scaloni, they've been looking to form a national team that's younger, that trying to get some new blood into the team and bring them back to the top, which they were able to do over the summer by winning the Copa America. So, Aguero didn't feature much at all. The future really up top for Argentina feels like it is Messi with, players like Lautaro Martinez. There's a young striker named Julian Alvarez at River Plate who's going to be absolutely incredible in Europe, I think, regularly scoring multiple goals a game. And so, I think his role, for the national team there wasn't much left there anyways, but it's certainly disappointing to see his career end like this. He went to Barcelona for one main reason, and that was to play with Messi, who's one of his best friends. And so to have that fall apart with Messi going to PSG and him being left in a really tricky situation at a club that's, not very stable at the moment, is a shame. And, he always had said too that he wanted to go back to Argentina and finish his career with Independiente. And unfortunately, the fans down there, one of the biggest clubs, the team with the most Copa Libertadores titles, the Champions League equivalent, they're not going to be able to see that. So it's an unfortunate ending, but, obviously health comes first.
Yeah, 100% health comes first. And your wife will be absolutely gutted that Aguero's not going to get his homecoming. And it's even worse that it's been taken completely out of his hands, like you said, due to health reasons. But sticking to the Premier League and Manchester City, my question to you, Roger, is who do you think is going to win the Premier League this year? I know it's not an easy question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not, I think, we've seen some inconsistencies with Chelsea. We've seen them struggle defensively, not having Christensen and kind of trying to, and obviously not having players in the middle too, like they've had in the past, with these injuries, with whether we're talking about N'Golo Kante or Mateo Kovacic. So I think it's really, Liverpool and Manchester City. And, it's really, hard to pick between either. I think it will really come down to the team that stays the healthiest, because they're neck and neck. It's obviously close in the table. If I had to pick, I mean, oh goodness, it's so challenging. Maybe I would lean Liverpool right now. I think both of them though are capable of having those games where they need some good fortune to get by, as we saw them benefiting recently by penalty kicks in 1-0 victories, 1-0 victories. So I'll go Liverpool, just slightly, but it's not going to surprise me at the end of the day if it's City. And it's not going to surprise me that either of them, if one wins the Premier League and one wins the Champions League.
Excuse me, Roger. No, like I said, it's not an easy question, and it's a 2.5 horse race, you could kind of say, with Chelsea's inconsistencies. But sticking with Chelsea, a player who's very close to my heart, I am a Chelsea fan, Christian Pulisic. I just want to know, Roger, do you think this is his make or break year at Chelsea, given the fact that he's been injured so much during his career at Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. We've seen links, to Barcelona and things like that. He's someone who had always wanted to play for Chelsea. I think for him, not being a consistent starter drives him to try and achieve that. When you have a team with that much talent and players that I think are just slightly better than him in attack, I think Mason Mount is a fantastic player. Hakim Ziyech, I've always thought he was, at Ajax, someone who hasn't quite delivered as much at Chelsea as I thought he would, but someone with limitless potential. I think for Pulisic, it's kind of at this point of, having his role as an occasional starter and, coming off the bench to be kind of a super sub. But, he scored in the Champions League semifinals. He's helped this team, in several moments, and it's a shame that he can't, seem to stay healthy. It's, not that it's derailed his career. He certainly has all the potential there. But I think he's going to have to come to a decision of, is this a role that he's okay with, or is he going to try to find, a club where he can be an absolute starter week in and week out. So he's got some tough decisions to make going forward. And, I think he's at a good spot right now, but, everyone will want to be playing more than he is.
Yeah, 100%. I know that him himself, he hates being pigeonholed as the super sub or even Captain America, so to speak. He hates that mantra as well. But the fact that he's so versatile, obviously at Chelsea, we've seen him play in the false nine this season. We've seen him on the left, on the right, and we've even seen it at wing back. Do you think with all these injuries, the fact that he is so versatile will help his career and maybe prolong his Chelsea career in the process?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we've seen, Thomas Tuchel loving to have players who can play, a variety of roles, and it's not easy to play in different positions. So the fact that he could, adequately play multiple positions is something that any manager would like to have, in his back pocket, as with these injuries that come up, or just how he seems at match developing, and needing someone to fill those shoes. So the versatility is certainly one of the biggest pluses, and on top of that, just his ability to move quickly with the ball. We've seen, the moments where he can just kind of, it seems like he's in just another level of speed than defenders, and makes them look silly, and can produce some really nice moments. So, he's someone that has a lot of value for the club if he's used the right way. And, we'll have to see how that role is moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Christian Pulisic, and I personally think the sky's the limit for him personally, as long as he can stay 100% fit and when he takes his opportunities on the pitch. Just for example, I was at the game at Burnley where he's got a perfect hat trick, and I thought this is where he kicks on now. This is, we put all that behind him. This is where he kicks on, and then he gets injured, and then the lockdown, and then he comes back playing amazing after the lockdown. So I think if Chelsea can keep him fit, then he would be a great weapon in our arsenal, especially with his versatility, like we've already highlighted. But we're going to move across the pond now, Roger. We're going to move towards New York. They won the MLS Cup, New York City FC, the first one for the city, not just for New York City FC, for the city. How important do you think that is for the city of New York, and how bad do you think that is for the Red Bulls?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see, a club come in. We've seen so many clubs come in and just have so many issues. These expansion teams, Inter Miami has been a bit of a mess, but there have been teams that have set a standard like Atlanta United, and New York City has followed suit, in 6 seasons, getting to the final and winning. And I think, looking at them, they've got a lot of really young, good players, South American players who, have that technical ability, have experienced players like Maxi Morales, who, was a really good player in Italy when he was at Atalanta before they were the Atalanta of now. And I think, for the city to have, a club that they can kind of get behind, it's strange because you have, the New York Red Bulls, they play in Harrison, New Jersey, which is, strange to begin with. So it certainly feels like New York City FC is, New York's team, though, the Red Bulls have been around, since the beginning when they were the Metro Stars, one of the coolest logos that MLS had back in the day. I think, they're playing at Yankee Stadium. It's not ideal. That whole situation with getting a stadium has, for years now has been kind of back and forth, whether it would happen or not. I think, having that pedigree of, coming from, the City Football Group, and knowing that there will be consistent investment in the team. It's funny to see now, though, after all the years of having, David Villa, having, Frank Lampard, Andre Pirlo, now they don't really have anyone quite of that magnitude, but they have found a consistent core for their team to bring home a championship, and it's been quite the whirlwind season for them. But I think they're the deserved champions.
Yeah, 100% agree. Castellanos has been amazing this season for them. And he's been, although, like you said, they don't have a Villa, Lampard, or Pirlo star power, they've found the winning formula to win MLS Cup anyway. And no shame in admitting this. I recently got into MLS probably about 5 years ago, I would say. I think it was the debut season of Atlanta United, and then in the second season, having watched them on Sky Sports in this country, because we didn't get a lot of coverage up until about 4 years ago. I fell in love with that team, the team of like Barco, Michael Parkhurst, Joseph Martinez, etc. And like you've just mentioned then, Roger, it looks like a carbon copy of this New York team with this Atlanta team following the South American business model, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, a lot of these South American players that I know that have played in MLS, they see it as a potential stepping stone. While the quality might not be there in comparison to, overall, you compare it to leagues like in Argentina and Brazil, where, especially Argentina, maybe they don't have the financial resources, but there's just so many really good young players there. I think one of the overlooked aspects, though, too, is, being able to come to the U.S., which is, it's a great place to be. We've got, the sport that's on the rise, that's more popular than it ever has been here. being able to even just earn in dollars compared to, say like the Argentine peso, which is every day is worth less. I mean, these are big reasons why these players come here, for the comfort. They can walk around and maybe not really get recognized and not have to deal with that, constant, pressure of kind of being, well known and outdoors that, see like celebrities have to deal with, the whole paparazzi thing. But also just, viewing it as a league that they know is growing. I think a lot of attackers know that, MLS maybe has a long ways to go defensively. We've seen so many attackers come here and just be able to set the league on fire, and that only helps them, when it comes to making more of a name for themselves, producing, and maybe getting on the radar of some of these teams in Europe. We saw Miguel Almiron do that, ahead of his move to Newcastle. He was obviously so good for Atlanta when they won, and so I think this is a league that is only getting better, still has a long ways to go, but their investment in South American players has certainly been really important to the growth.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even for the 5 years that I've been watching MLS, exponentially it's grown as a league. Intel, even with the professionalism of the expansion sides as well. And there's expansion sides coming here, there, and everywhere. I know we've got Austin, Minnesota's came in the past 3 years. I can't Nashville, sorry, another one off the top of my head. I think that the way that all the franchises are looking at the models that came before them, and apart from Inter Miami, where they've been like, okay, they've made mistakes. And I think, like you said there, the Atlanta United business model of looking into South America, there's so many pros to these players to come here. Like you said, the pesos were less and less every day. Just the notoriety of coming to this league. It's a growing league. And like you said, there's room for improvement with defenders. But there's a player in MLS that I've had my eye on for about 18 months now. And I know it's a player that you're very wax lyrical about, Ricardo Pepi. And I know this guy's good, but how far do you think he can go? How far do you think his glass ceiling is?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because he plays bigger than he is. I mean, he seems like he's like a tall player. He's really not all that big, but he can get up for headers. He can do a bit of everything. He combines well with his teammates, and yeah, I think he has a lot of potential, to be a consistent player in Europe. Sometimes I get hesitant where, maybe the U.S. fan base can be a bit unrealistic in expectations and just assuming, this next player is going to be, the greatest thing. I think there's so much young talent here. Talk about Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, and I think Pepe is someone who maybe initially I hadn't seen a whole lot of his early games. Wasn't sure quite the consistency, that he'd be able to provide, but then saw him with the national team exceed expectations. I didn't expect him to be able to come in and make such an impact, especially in CONCACAF, which is just you're playing on these miserable fields and these wild environments, and it's not easy. So he's really done well, and it seems to just be consistent on every level. So I think he's someone who we will see in Europe at a fairly big club. I would say kind of middle range to big club. I mean, we've got Dortmund's interested in him, Ajax. I was recently told Atletico Madrid has been interested as well, and he wants to move. He wants to move now. He's gone to the club multiple times to request a transfer. They want to hold on to him. They want to see him blow up at the World Cup and then be able to to get a whole lot more for his transfer after missing out on some sales in the past. So I think it's interesting because there's an added pressure in the sense that the U.S. men's national team needs a striker, and I mean he's got all the tools to fill that, and so he's going to have every opportunity to be that number 9 moving forward. And I think Europe is obviously the move to further develop. I mean, the way players live, breathe, and eat the sport there, how 24/7 it is, how consuming it is. You're playing against better players every single day, and that's the key, I think, to progression at his age. So, yeah, before long, we'll see him there, and I expect him to do well.
Yeah, just a few of the clubs you mentioned there for his development. Borussia Dortmund and Ajax are two of the best places in the world, let alone Europe, to develop as a young footballer. And I think Ricardo Pepi is the sky's his limit. He's still a teenager, lest we forget. He's a guy who, like you said, is very versatile in terms of what he can offer to the game. I feel like his back to goal play has even improved as the 9 in these past 18 months. And do you think that the main stumbling block for these MLS clubs is they're maybe trying to hold on to a Ricardo Pepi for too much money, and then it hinders the development instead of helping them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the FC Dallas even came out and said the other day. I think it was Dan Hunt who said that they're worried like if he goes to Europe, something to the effect of it could hurt his place with the national team. And I think it's the complete opposite. Obviously you want to go abroad and get minutes, but I think there is a risk in holding on to players. I mean, if they were to try to keep them for next season, and God forbid there's an injury or something, I mean, it could derail everything. So I get wanting to hold on to players and try to get the most out of it's a business at the end of the day. I think it's a similar situation with Miles Robinson in Atlanta. The club says there's no offers. I'm told there are offers, and so it's kind of a back and forth of kind of the pros and cons of selling and keeping. And so I get FC Dallas's stance though, wanting to keep him. I mean, he's one of the top players in the league, can score plenty of goals. They have a young nucleus of players and a new coach who he knows well, Nico Estevez, who was a national team assistant coach for the U.S. So it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to turn into one of those sagas and back and forth, and then how long it's going to take. But I think sooner rather than later, a move to Europe needs to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And for anyone who's not really aware or just doesn't know, for lack of a better term, of Ricardo Pepi, he's a hometown guy. He's a Dallas fan. So you must know how hard this is him to actually force this move for. It's his hometown club. And he's basically saying, I want to leave because I want to test myself against the best, and credit to him. But my final question for you, Roger, is just one about the US players in Europe. So just to name a few for the listeners, we've got Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, and Gio Reyna, just to name a few, Brendan Aronson. Who do you think has the biggest talent out of the lot of them to succeed in Europe?
I think it's Gio Reyna, and I don't think it's close. I think he's far and away the top prospect. I just think, somebody who the sport, a lot of these guys have had the sport, in their family and were born with the ball at their feet. But his grandpa played in Argentina. His dad, obviously, Claudio Reyna, played for Fulham, played for Manchester City, right? Played in Germany as well. He's just someone who I think the technical ability that he has, though sometimes we see him play, on the right, he's someone who you can put at at the number 10 and just be a superstar. I think while Pulisic has the name and has obviously achieved more, and getting that development at Dortmund where Gio Reyna is now. Reyna, I think, just has something a little bit different. And I think it's part of his, where I think he could play positionally, just how important that, creative engine is to every single team, kind of like a quarterback is in American football. I think really for him, there's been reported interest from Real Madrid. I think he's someone who could play at a club of that level in time. A lot of development needs to happen. But it wouldn't surprise me that if at the end of the day he's up to this point, if he's the best U.S. men's national team player we've seen.
Yeah, the familiar trend that I see with all the US players in Europe is a sense of fearlessness that they're like, we are not phased at all by this stage and the players that we're playing against, because in my opinion, the US men's national team in around 5 years will be seriously competing in terms of them. It won't even be a will they qualify, it'll be they should easily qualify, just for the sheer plethora of talent that they've got. But I'd just like to thank you, Roger, just for your time today, and obviously for coming on and doing the podcast. If you can just let the listeners know where they can find you and what you've got going on, just so they can go and check you out.
Yeah, at cbssports.com. On Twitter, I'm at rgonzalezcbs. We do a bunch of everything here in the United States. We have the television rights to the Champions League, to Serie A. We write on all the leagues. We touch on the Premier League. We've got writers based in Europe as well. And so I think we have a different style of kind of how we present things in our articles, and try to kind of, see how we can kind of make it our own. And, for example, writing about Aguero retiring, we'll write a story while he's leaving. Here's 3 players Barcelona should consider to replace him. So I think there's some fun stuff there that people will enjoy, and hope people can go and check us out.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking from experience, I've read multiple of Roger's articles. Go and check them out. He's already told you where you can find it. But yeah, thank you very much again for your time, Roger, and take care. Hope you stay safe, you and the family.
Thanks for having me. Happy holidays.
You too, mate. Oh, thank you very much for that, Roger. Really appreciate it.
No problem, man. I get surprised every time I meet someone. I mean, it's more and more, but someone overseas, who in Europe and England, who are into MLS. Like, I guess I didn't realize there are, because I mean, I see it's an exciting league because the defending is sometimes not so great. There's lots of goals. It can be fun like that and chaotic. Um, I just, yeah, it surprises me sometimes, but that's cool that people are noticing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, roughly about 5 years ago, we got the rights over here on television, and it was like every Friday and Saturday and even Sunday evenings, they were always on TV, about three games back to back to back. So I would just sit there and just watch them all, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And luckily, I managed to do 6 months in New York a few summers ago, coaching football out there. And that's when I got to go to Red Bull Arena. I got to go to Yankee Stadium, and that's when I fully was immersed in it. But no, I love it. I'm constantly keeping tracks on it.
Wow, wow, that's wild to me. That's cool. Yeah, I think between us, I think Miles Robinson will move
He's great. He's
very
fantastic.
soon. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta doesn't want to sell, but he wants to leave, so we're trying to get an interview with him. Uh, that Kevin Paredes guy from DC United, he's
Yeah.
someone. His agent used to be like a not to put on the podcast, but just between
Yeah.
us,
No. This is
he used to be.
nothing. Now we'll go in now.
I think his agent was like Sir Alex Ferguson's scout in South America. It's like a Brazilian guy who lives over there in England. Um, and he's supposed to be leaving too in January. I'm trying to figure out who's all interested, but yeah, I guess there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of guys who are going to move.
Yeah, 100%. Like Brendan Aronson's another guy that's just like came out of nowhere. I'm not afraid to admit it. I found him on Football Manager. I found him on
Okay.
there, went and checked him out, saw that he came from the Union. I was like, how have I missed this guy? And then I
Right.
saw him at Salzburg, and now he's killing it. He's doing really
Yeah.
well there. But he's
Yeah. His
another
little
guy
brother
that I've
plays
just kept my
for
eyes on. He's great.
too. Yeah. It's been interesting to see so many guys go over there.
Yeah, it's like I said, I've only in the past 4 or 5 years got in following the US men's national team. So I've got a load of friends that I still have from New York who follow it, and we
Right.
watched the Jamaica game on Paramount Plus or something like that. We watched it all as a group
Yeah,
not
that's
that
our
long
company.
ago.
So
Yeah,
Paramount is our app for CBS.
yeah. So we did like a group watch thing, and oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. Never done anything like that before.
Wow.
But no, I don't want to keep you longer than I can keep you, Roger. But I'd just like to say again, thank you so much for your time. And if you like, I'd love to do this again someday.
Sure, man. Sounds good. Pleasure talking with you. And yeah, stay in touch.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Take care, you and the family.
See ya. Take care, you too.